Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Patriot Nation TV. I'm your host, Tim Davis, your new age patriot with the 1776 attitude. Just one man, one opinion. And we had a very trying, confusing week last week, and we're moving forward into another chaotic, twisted, bizarre week. So tonight, I'm having a little live show with two guests, and we're going to discuss like four things that's really been hitting the internet and been around social media. So I also got to tell you that I'm in a 30-day Facebook jail right now because I'm being censored. That's basically that's how I'm going to lead into the first question. So, going into the first question, we got to start asking ourselves, why is big tech, mainstream media silencing the conservative voice, the libertarian voice, basically anybody who has a disagreement or disagrees with the radical left socialist agenda? So that's one way of looking at it, and we got to know why that's happening, and that's a major problem. So we're also going to discuss why is there a large military buildup in D.C. and the other 50 states around the nation? Why is that happening? Questions that we need to know, answers we need to know to questions. Then we're going to move further into why government officials around the globe are just suddenly resigning. Some of them even committed suicide. One of the Rothschilds was 57 years old. Oh, he had a heart attack. And then we'll move on to how the House bamboozled everybody with Trump's second impeachment for insurrection, which is total, in my eyes, it is buffoonery. Everybody's trying to bamboozle everybody. But that's just liberal logic. So moving forward, I'm going to go into my first guest. His name is Rick. And there he is. Rick, how you doing? Welcome to Patriot Nation TV. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Introduce yourself a little if you want.
All right. I'm Rick from upstate New York. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. Okay, so I just gave a little rundown of like what's really going around social media, what everybody's arguing about, just having disagreements about. I gave four little questions I think is very important. So I'm going to start with you. Like I said, I'm in a 30-day Facebook jail for a comment. It's just, I posted a Capitol being, January 6th being, as I call it, insurrected. So I just posted a picture of it, and that put me in a 30-day jail, Facebook jail. So this kind of hits me, and also now the last week you seen the president leave the free world, get his social stuff getting taken off, So the question is why is big tech, mainstream media silencing the conservative voice, the libertarian voice, and everybody else who disagrees with the radical left Marxist socialist agenda? So that's the question. Why do you think that this is happening to everybody that opposes this liberal radical agenda?
I think it makes it easier to drown out opposition. I think it makes it easier for them to push their narrative and agenda. It also reinforces their belief to their followers. When all they hear is the one message, they don't hear both sides of the story. It kind of paints for them in their mind a clear picture of the path that they're supposed to be following. When you silence your opposition, it also makes it more difficult for the opposition, especially when you're doing it across many platforms. It makes it more difficult for them to communicate, to coordinate, and to respond. So in light of let's just say the Capitol, what happened at the Capitol, right? The left is going to use that as a as a reason to censor the conservative voices. But I noticed that they didn't do that when Twitter and Facebook was a haven for those doing the same thing with BLM and Antifa. And they were allowed to push their agenda, their narratives, and they weren't silenced. But the right had one riot, and I don't agree with the riot. right? Just for full disclosure, I don't agree with the riot. I believe anytime, in no place in a modern day civil republic should we have rioting, right? That said, BLM and Antifa rioted for almost a full year, and
Yes.
there was very little done to stop it. And matter of fact, the DNC made it easier for them to conduct their operations by preventing prosecutors and police from doing their jobs, and they were releasing these people right back out on the street to re-offend, right? So, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Biden campaign was contributing money to a fund to bail out some of these people that were getting arrested. And again, they were going out and recommitting these same crimes, enabling them.
So let me ask you. So like me personally, I'm just, like I said, I'm one man, one person's one opinion. Like at this point of what's going on, I believe that we're turning into a banana republic, and I hate to say it. In my eyes, we are. To me, it seems like everything on the federal, state, local level, every branch of government, everything's just corrupt and compromised. It's not just a couple of bad apples here or there. That's the higher ups. I guess the military code. I'm not a military guy, but in the military code, they say that the brass or the brass, and they're making these decisions, I guess. So as of right now, to me, in my eyes, it only seems like the military is the only one that's left on our side. Because both. That's why it's clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right of me. The episode, because both sides are playing, against the middle. That's us. And so I think it's a little ridiculous, And I think so. Basically, what I'm asking, you think it's pre-designed, it's planned, it was planned ahead for this to happen? Me personally, I do. I believe it was planned 5 years ago, when President Trump first ran for office.
In my opinion,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think they expected him to win, and then once he did win, it immediately created this firestorm of animosity mixed with vengeance, mixed with almost like a hate. They went after him with such tenacity, whereas before Trump was never a Republican. He was more. He supported the Democrats because he was in New York City. New York City is a Democratic city. He was rubbing elbows with Democrats. He was funding Democrat campaigns. He wasn't a real Republican. And then once he got in, the only place he could get in is with the Republicans, since Hillary was such a dominant figure on the left. He only could get in with Republicans on the right. And even then, the Republicans didn't accept him and didn't like him initially. And they still don't. And they don't, because he's messing up everybody's money.
That's a good point. And at that point, let me bring out Leonard, who's been patiently sitting backstage, coming on to give his voice and his opinion on what's going on. So, my next guest is going to be Leonard. Leonard, how are you? How are you, sir?
I'm good, Tim. Nice to see you.
Likewise. So, welcome to Patriot Nation TV, and I'm sure you were in the back of the studio. You were listening to the questions and answers. Would you like to give your input on what you think's going on about big tech? Why big tech is silencing everybody that doesn't agree with this radical left Marxist ideology that's just killing us? Tyranny. Let me give your opinion on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny in the sense that everybody on the right, all of us so-called conspiracy theorists, I mean, if all of these things that's going on and all of these concepts being talked about, if it was so ridiculous, then why not let the people decide for themselves? Let me say what I want to say, leave it to that individual to do the research or to decide for themselves ultimately, all right, well, I'm buying it or I'm not buying it. But just to outright shut me up and shut me down, I mean, that's not American.
It's not. They're not giving the other opposition like free grievances. You got if it's a grievance against your government, you should have a grievance. It's in the Constitution. It's in the Bill of Rights. And for some reason, it just seems like that's why I said I think everything's corrupt now in my eyes. But we only have like a couple of the hopes left. So go ahead, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, but I tend to agree with that. I agree with peaceful protest. I agree with us to do it the right way, the legit way, the legal way. But, and one thing I do disagree with wholeheartedly is it can come to a point where you need to fight for what this country stands for. And every fight is not going to be peaceful. I don't advocate violence, but as a government, if you look at our nation as a whole, how do we, address grievances that we have with other nations? We send the military. If we can't sit you down and talk to you about it, we send the military in and we fight it out. We duke it out.
That's been the pattern. Absolutely.
It's a fact. I mean, people could watch this and say, well, he's advocating for insurrection. He's advocating for revolution or civil war. Well, at this point, we're pretty much in a civil war. It's just a technical civil war. The tech companies are silencing the people, silencing the voices, silencing people that they don't agree with. So this has been brewing for a long time. Like you guys said, when Trump ran for president, he only fit in with the Democratic Party because he had to be in a party that was known. He couldn't run as a libertarian and win. So that being said, he ran to drain the swamp, and he understood and said it from day one. The swamp is deep, and it's both sides. Washington is a swamp. So it's not that he just went in there to beat the Democrats. He went in there to get our country back. I wasn't a Trump guy. I voted for Obama and Biden twice, and I defended their rhetoric. I didn't know anything about Donald Trump, really. I knew he had a TV show, never watched it. But when I started listening to him speak, he kind of put out the values that first of all, most African Americans, we were raised in conservative households. We were raised with going to church. We was raised with doing what your parents said, having two parents in a home. You work for what you wanted. Things weren't just handed to us. So basically, we were all pretty much raised conservative. Respect your elders, watch your mouth, So these are all concepts that we grew up with. Now, when they did what they did to our community with the drugs, that changed. But I think for the most part, us 70s children, we still have that conservative mindset. I'm not looking for someone to hand me anything. If I want it, I'll go work for it. So when Trump started his speeches and his campaigning, it just made sense to me as an American. I see what the court systems are now. They're not for the people.
Nope.
The government is not for the people. It's what they're self-serving.
It's taxation without representation all over again. We have no representation, and we're paying a fortune in taxes. So basically, what I'm getting out of it, because I think we're all going to kind of agree. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is the media with big tech? They're silencing us. It either comes down, they're silencing us for their own personal gain, their own personal agenda, which is with the radical left. I call it legal plundering us, with brainwashing us. Or there's another point of view that came to my attention, that was made to my attention, was that so the media is against us. Is the media silencing the opposition from being able to utilize the tools that we have to, say, organize with each other, communicate with each other? Because to me, apparently, also, because I'm in Facebook jail, I'm going to keep repeating that because I'm kind of a little ticked off about that. But meanwhile, there's these liberals who are just so vile and say nasty things to you, and they get away with it. Like I said, I mean, they put a meme up with Kathy Griffin holding a Trump head and stuff. Like, you can stay on, you don't get censored, but I get kicked off, you get kicked off, Trump gets kicked off. And to me, just so basically, if you agree. I mean, I think that they're just trying to stop us from just spreading. They don't want us to spread the truth anymore. and they don't want us to use their tools that they created and that they're bought and paid for from China. China owns all this big Silicon Valley. I'm going to say it right now. I don't care. One man, one opinion, one voice. I believe that cold-heartedly. So that's who pays them, and they don't want us to get our message out. They want to silence us. They don't want us to communicate, talk about how we can survive, what's coming up. They want us to lose. They want to take our businesses and everything away. But so I mean, I think we can all agree with that. So I think we should maybe move on to the other big top.
Let me just add a little bit to that.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
At both parties, every party has backers, right? The Republicans are real heavy into the industrial military complex. Both sides kind of get their hands deep into that. But I think where the Democrats, the DNC, has really gotten their hooks into social media and communication. They really put the emphasis that the pen is mightier than the sword, and it's starting to pay dividends. I think the Republican Party has largely ignored the technical battleground for the most part, and relied on free information and people to make their own mind, thinking that it would be mainly common sense for the most part. But when you're not getting both sides of the story, that's where I think we're losing ground.
Yeah, that's
and I think big tech and the DNC are in bed together. So whichever party is going to give them more power, more ability to make more money and more influence in their respective fields, that's the one they're going to promote. That's the one they're going to push, while in conjunction with suppressing the opposition for that.
Okay, makes sense. Leonard, you want to add anything to it, or you want to move forward to another topic that took place this week and what took place last week and is coming up in the next few days, the inauguration?
Well, just quickly on the big tech. I think the DNC, the Democrat Party, I think they kind of dropped the ball and realized that they did when Trump ran the first time, because that's what he used to get his message across. He really didn't go mainstream media. He went alt media.
Right. Absolutely.
They know that's what he did. So they're doing everything to stop that from happening again in the future, and not allowing him to do it again now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's great talking points. Great point of views. All right. So now let's move on to the other issue that took place last week. It's taking place this coming week. A lot of speculation, a lot of different videos being out there, a lot of theories, and good, bad, questionable, 50%, 40% truth. We don't know. So I'm sure we all came across some of the same information. So there's social media, some of it's propaganda, some of it's, just useless information just to try to keep everybody divided, confused, because out of chaos comes order, So they want to just use everybody at each other's throat, keep the people divided, easier it is to take over. So the question I have is, Joe Biden allegedly is going to be sworn in a few days from now. And, 80 million people voted for him. He's calling for unity. They're saying how they're become united. I have a question is, why is there such a large military buildup taking place right now, yesterday, the day before, in D.C. and the other 50 states around the nation? Capitals are being boarded up, National Guards going in, heavy law enforcement presence, FBI, state troopers, and so on and so on and so on. So I think that was a really big, heated topic last week, and it's going to be a really, really heated topic going into this week. Why is the military being built up in D.C. and around the nations? So, Leonard, I'll let you start off with this question first. What do you think about that? What do you think the purpose is behind it?
I'm going to sum it up in 3 words: deep state takedown. I think he's going to get them all. All the evidence is there. They have it all. They've been watching for 4 years. They've been doing their intel. I know a lot of people want to cry conspiracy theorists and conspiracy theory, but I do believe that it's going to happen either at the inauguration or just before. It looks to me like they're using the old police trick. You invite all the criminals to a baseball game and give them free tickets, all the ones you can't catch. Then when they show up to get those tickets and go to that game, you put them on the buses and you take them to jail. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that's why they're trying to cancel the inauguration right now. Because I think they kind of get in wind. If you have people on the right, and we're still communicating, we're getting our word across, even though they shadow banning everybody, they suspending people. I mean, we just jump into all avenues of getting our word across. So the message is getting out. But if I know it, then they know it. So,
yes.
so that's why I'm kind of thinking that somebody, because I'm going to tell you, if I was a politician and I knew I was doing dirt all these years, I'm not going to the inauguration. I'm not going. You got to catch me later.
So you're
So,
more in line with thinking it's a military operative is you're going
yeah,
with.
because that's the only thing left now. He did everything that he could do to try to settle this through the courts, you know, investigation all the way up to the Supreme Court.
I agree.
And
I did a couple of videos on that, little short videos of myself. Tyranny Tuesday, episode 1, episode 2. I explained it. So I agree with you on that. I'm on board with that. I'm thinking the same thing. And
so at this point, I don't believe he's going to tuck his tail, because if that was the case, why not do it already? If everybody's saying that you lost and everybody's kind of falling into that, then why not? What's the problem with saying, like, even for somebody like me, who's 100% supports him, and yes, I am a black male, but I support him. So, but even at this point, if it was really over,
I'm sure you get crucified for that, right?
Oh man, listen, and the one thing that I get from my side of town is they're racist. Trump's a racist. They're all white supremacists. But guess what? Just because of my political stance, I've been treated and called more names by black people than you would ever believe in your life. I mean, I've never been discriminated against more by any white person I've ever known, any white entity, than I have by my own people.
Well,
but guess what? I know the truth, and you can't break me. I'm a man, and I stand on mine.
That's deep. I appreciate your opinion. So what do you think, Rick? What do you think about the military buildup in D.C. and around the 50 states in the nation? What do you think? What do you think this is all about, in your opinion, from your researchers and stuff?
There's so much out there; it's tough to nail anything down. I've heard a lot of what Leonard was saying. I haven't seen any evidence to them leaning towards that operation, but it does seem plausible. I don't know how likely it is. There's also the fact that the military is doing what the military has been ordered to do. So you have an incoming Democratic president, right? And whether it's a false flag or an actual event that happened, whatever the case may be, the seeds of fear have been planted, whether they're real or not. They've been planted. And now they're going to say, well, we need a military presence. In terms of the size, it depends on the scope of the operation, i.e., how many facilities need to be secured, how many areas need to be secured, because you're going to need, and it's not just troops. What they're saying online is the amount of troops. What they don't always tell you is that for every one guy you put in the field, you need several behind them to keep them out there. You need the cooks, the bakers, and the candlestick makers to keep them all properly fed, the equipment repaired, the communication lines open. You know what I mean? Their own supply lines open. And then what government infrastructure are you going to secure? Because it's not just the buildings, it's the armories, it's the depots, it's the public works, it's the power facilities.
Well, you say the supply lines, and that's a very, that kind of caught my attention. Supply lines, like, so here at home, like usually, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a military guy. I'm just going by what I researched and studied. when you were abroad at war, that's the whole, you from what I understand is you take away the supply lines of ammunition to the enemy and stuff. But being that this country is on the brink of going radical left that we've never seen before, and it's kind of scary that the military is going to be in their power. But to me, I don't know. I'm just going to go right into the next one with it. Like, you got to look at it. Why, if you just look around the world, which is taking place in Russia, Italy, other foreign countries, France, all these government officials globally are just like resigning all of a sudden. There's been a couple suicides, then a couple bankers are dying, self-inflicted gunshot wounds to the chest. You must have long arms, if you can shoot yourself in the chest with a shotgun. Hey, wow, amazing. But so I'm thinking military ops too. I'm just going by research what we did in the past, World War II strategies, Vietnam, all different strategies, Revolutionary War. Mm-hmm. All sorts of strategies are being played right now. Right now, like Leonard and you both said earlier, it's more of a global time. It's a tech war now. It's the Civil War started, but it's a big tech, and it's amongst the politicians and senators. So why do you So probably it is part of the military op. Why else? What do you guys think all these other politicians around the globe are just suddenly resigning in the last 7 to 10 days? Because that's what they're doing. They're just resigning and giving up their posts.
Well, some of it may be because of the new incoming leader, like internal conflicts. For example, you have Ukraine, right? The president of Ukraine directly called out Biden and said that he was committing shady deals in his country, and he opened the door to some of the scandal that took place. Now, with Biden coming in as the president of the United States, he may not deal with Ukraine very favorably. So those within power within Ukraine might say, hey, we need to get this guy out of here if we're still going to be in a favorable position with the United States after all this dust settles. So you could have the cleaning of house, so to speak, people who dealt favorably with Trump and opened the door into some of these investigations, because some of the information they got didn't come from us. It came from foreign intelligence services, foreign investigations, because when some of these investigations happen on foreign soil, the FBI doesn't just show up and run roughshod over all these other nations, countries. They work with them, and they're usually getting their information from them and then analyzing the information and validating the information, right? So I think some of it has to do with that, and some people are disappearing, which is normal in a power struggle like this, unfortunately.
History proves that, absolutely. We have 6,000 years of history that proves that exact statement you made. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And another thing is to add, I say one thing where it couldn't be a military operation at home. It's just the military doing its job in securing the republic. The government's job, regardless of what everyone says, the government's primary priority is the continuation of government. I don't care. It's not about the people. It's about making sure the government survives. Yep. So they're going to secure all the government facilities, right? From state level down to the local level, if possible. That's a lot of facilities, so that's where I think you could play both sides of the fence depending on your argument. You could say that they're there for peaceful and normal measures in light of all the violence that's outbreaking, or you could say that they're strategically poised to take assets and to take control of all the major hubs in the event that this stuff goes down the way that I've seen it, the way what Leonard was talking about. I've seen some of that stuff too, and they're in a position to do both. They're in a position to do both, no matter how it plays out. They're in a position to do both, and I think that it's very interesting to see the amount of movement and the amount of forces being shifted around in that play.
It's kind of odd, right? It's kind of bizarre. I mean, none of us were alive when probably none of my parents were, but they're not here today. But we haven't seen movement like this really since World War II. Yeah. Amongst our own infrastructure itself, all the other wars we had, we didn't secure our infrastructure the way we are now. So,
Nope.
Leonard, want to come in, chime in a little bit on what we just discussed, and give your little insight on why you think good government is around the world's globally is just resigning, and why the buildup is.
I think it's a lot deeper than most people think. I think it has a lot to do with Nasara and Jasara being implemented. And with those type of things happening, a lot of people that's been corrupt and part of the corruption throughout the world. I mean, our government is our government and our swamp is deep, but this swamp runs nationwide. It's just it's
pretty deep.
It's not a one, continent issue that we're having. So the military are the only ones. Trump controls the military still. He's the commander in chief. So until Biden is sworn in, which personally I don't think is ever going to happen, but until Biden is sworn in, Trump is still the president until that second. And as far as the narrative that they put out there for why they're moving all the troops in, see, they trying to make it seem like it was the Trump supporters that they're worried about, but that goes against the status quo. Antifa, for the most part, along with Black Lives Matter, but I feel that Antifa infiltrated Black Lives Matter and caused all this chaos for the whole summer.
100%.
But look at the whole summer that they burnt down all of America, and it wasn't a problem. So you had a few people. You had a few people that did some things at the Capitol building. Okay, now you're talking about 500,000+ people out there. That's enough. That's an army big enough to take the country. When we approached the Chinese border during Korea, the Chinese launched a 1 million-man army across that border, and most of them didn't even have weapons, and pushed us all the way back.
Right.
With 500,000 mad Americans. I watched this one lady, an older white lady, and she was a Trump supporter. And with this whole election, and when they were talking about the fraud and the scandals and things like that, she said, "I'm a retired nurse. I can't go to the front line and pick up a weapon and fight. But I was a nurse for 45 years. I could work at any field hospital when it comes time to do it." So that's the mindset that a lot of people have. Because if you can't vote, if your vote doesn't mean anything, then what are we doing in this country? So, and if we go through the courts, then all that's left is the military. And the military are the ones that's going to have to come in and help clean house. That's my personal thoughts on it. I mean,
and you know what?
We'll know who's right and wrong in a few days.
Yes, we will. But, I'm in agreement with that. I'm thinking at this point, the only thing stopping us, I'm going to use the word, being a banana republic, because we really are on the threshold of being one, is we can hope and pray that our military is going to still honor their oath to the Constitution and we the people. So, go ahead, Rick. I see you on a statement. Go ahead.
The only thing that gives me a moment of pause on that is that you have a lot of old war axes in the military that aren't happy with Trump at all, along with the industrial military complex, because he didn't start any wars. He didn't expand any wars. He didn't start any wars, and that's our bread and butter.
Right.
The United States makes a large portion of its money off of starting, escalating, expanding, keeping conflicts going. I love my flag, but I understand. But I understand.
Wars are racket.
I'm sorry?
War's a racket, said General Smedley after World War I. He said, war's a racket.
But when he wouldn't prosecute and expand certain objectives into other countries, when he didn't expand other programs, it really hurt the military-industrial complex, and also some of the old war dogs who are getting money too. So I don't know if his grip on the military is as ironclad. Like I said, it could go either way. There's so many pros for that to happen the way you guys were saying. There's also so many ways to say it won't, because Biden could be saying like, hey, once I get in power, I'm going to kick open the dogs of war and we're going to go someplace and do something. And you have the old generals that are going to get more funding and more money. And some of these other companies like Walmart, like like Lockheed, they're going to be like, hey, yeah, we're going to support that too. And not only are we going to support that, here's some money for your campaigns. Here's some money for all your constituents. And we're going to also spend money to block opposition.
So basically, we're really at the tip of the iceberg on the tip of the scale of tyranny. Just
tyranny exists in the military too. Like I don't want you guys to think that the military is free of politics.
Right.
The military is just as political as
where's Iraq? You fund them. That you're a soldier. You're trained to go to war. You're not trained to go to. You're not going into the military.
Your line troops aren't concerned with politics as much, but you have a decision-making process. The people who control the line troops are, they're right there in the seat in the Pentagon, down in DC, down in Langley, they're right there in that hub. So influence on them is also immense.
But we do understand that Trump fired a lot of them. Trump really cleaned house when it came to generals and cleaned out the Pentagon. Like, he was firing people out of the Pentagon that's been in there. I didn't even know these people were still alive. And they were still in the Pentagon
when we were kids.
So he gutted a lot of them. I mean, trust me, he gutted a lot of those people that were in there for their own reasons, for their own personal gain. And in a sense, if you have a job, you're in it for your personal gain. The only reason you work is to have something, to have what you want in life. So we all get that. But when you take an oath, see, me as a law enforcement officer, as an active law enforcement officer, I tell everybody, my oath is to the Constitution, not to the sitting government. That document is what I swore my oath to. That's what my oath stands. The mayor comes and goes. The police chief comes and goes. The Constitution is the one thing that stays constant. And if you hold your oath as an oath taker, then there is no decision when it comes down to it. Because you know what the Constitution says. It's in black and white. There's not much ambiguity when it comes to it. So you can't sit there and tell me, okay, well, Biden is the president now, and he tells me to go around and round up people and put them in a camp. Guess what? That's a violation of the Constitution. I'm not doing it. Do you find yourself in the majority or the minority amongst your colleagues? Like, how are your colleagues, like, or is it 50-50 or? No, I'm in the majority.
Okay, that's good. That's good news. That's good to know. That's definitely good to know. It gives me a little secure feeling. A little bit. Not much. Just a little bit.
No, but you also got to understand this too, though. If it really came down to that, to brother versus brother on an American Civil War battlefield, which none of us want that.
No, absolutely not.
But if it came down to something that extreme, you're going to have, just like you go on Facebook and you argue with people because you're on opposite sides, that's what it would be on the battlefield.
Right.
So, hey, you get into a disagreement with somebody and you can't argue it out. What you do? You fight it out. And for me, someone who teaches defensive tactics and lawful use of force, guess what? Violence is a part of what we do in law enforcement. It's a part of what we do. So you can't say, "Oh, well, we don't like violence."
It's the same. It's kind of in your title, law enforcement. Force.
Right. It's what we do 100%. And it's not for me to meet you on the battlefield or meet you in the middle of a conflict, and for me to act as though I'm on the same level as you. So I'm going to take it one step above to obtain your compliance. So if it ever came down to it, then it would be bad in this country. There's no other way to put it, but we can't lose our freedom. We can't lose our government.
They've been chipping away at somebody signing our country away, by giving our country away, in all different avenues. So, hey, Rick,
what's up,
Rick? You want to dive in and give chime in a little bit?
I think we already lost a good portion of our freedoms. I think that militarily we are woefully underprepared for any domestic operations.
Underprepared, you think?
Underprepared. The reason why I say that is because I made mention to securing lines, the supply lines, logistics, right?
Yes,
What I mean by that is, during civil unrest, they tend to, as of recently, they tend to put everything under martial law. People have been barricading, even passively, barricading streets, standing in the way. What happens when you can't get fuel in? What happens when they hit the fuel depots? Because that's how the biggest effect is fuel. Right?
And I believe that would escalate it even more.
I don't know because it's different. It's different when you order. If you could order American troops to engage foreign populaces, right? That's one thing. But say those same American troops, like, hey, you need to go and engage the people from your own area. That's a totally different thing. Because keep in mind, the National Guard is made up of the people.
But we witnessed that already. We witnessed that in 2005 during Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans. The cops are doing, and the National Guard were going door to door, taking people's firearms away by the First Amendment, their Second, Fourth, Sixth, and Ninth Amendment.
But that was on a limited scale. But I'm talking about you're talking about on a large scale, on a national level. But even the National Guard coming in, say from Albany. Good.
What I want to say about that is we're looking from a military point of view, and what they do overseas. But the thing is, here in America, we control the supply lines. It's the private truckers. It's the private citizens who work in the grocery stores. It's the union construction workers, private sector. We control the supply line here. What's it called? Asymmetric warfare, where we control everything. We work at these power plants. We work at the utilities. We work, we work everywhere.
To an extent, yes. To some extent.
A large portion of it. And even in the public sector, like you said, the public works and stuff like that, those people, if you're some kind of law, if they take an oath to the Constitution, they got to oblige by the Constitution, as opposed to just making arbitrary laws and going whatever they sign away with. But it's just interesting. I just find it interesting, and like I said, I personally believe that we're a banana republic. Right? The only thing that separates us now is we have a house. I got lights in my house. Got a nice car, and I'm well fed. How long is that going to last? This new radical agenda is going to come in and wipe out the middle class completely. We're almost basically wiped out. So
I hope we're able to recover. I hope we're able to get our rights back. I'm not as optimistic as you gentlemen. I haven't resigned myself to the fate yet, but I'm not as optimistic. The military is very good at doing their operations. Well, they're doing operations like what I was saying, like in terms of power, they can generate their own power. They don't need to be tapped into the electrical grid. So they can actually shut down power if they needed to. They would. Sure. And still have their own. They can fly in supplies. They can truck in supplies. They don't need truckers. They have their own trucks. They have their own motor transport, stuff like that. So a lot of stuff that they need, they have organically. They utilize the stuff stateside, but they don't need to.
But you think, are they capable of supplying? If something really major happened, then the country was the country was shut down over COVID-19, where we were, the Chinese virus, we were shut down and people were crippled. So, some, God forbid, they use the COVID scare tactics on people to commit fear, and then some kind of martial law does take place. That's pretty. Is the military capable of supplying energy and food and everything for 340 million Americans?
No, that wouldn't be their function. That wouldn't be their function. They would supply it for themselves.
Right, and the rest of the people would be in the dark, would be in the dark, and that would escalate.
That's right.
But
within 3 days, it would go berserk.
It's what I'm saying. So we don't really know, and we just have hope, I guess. We use that hope. But
like I said, the military is underprepared for anything large scale here in the United States.
Yeah.
But they can conduct their operations.
Absolutely.
I think it'll be detrimental to all parties involved if we divulge to that point.
I got you.
I think, you know what, I believe that it would be initially, but to be honest with you, this country needs to be shaken up and reorganized. I mean, the foundation is busted, and you know,
do executive orders.
We saw Trump come into office and try to make these changes, and his whole message was America first. You know, give the people back the power. And look at what happened with him. What do you think is going to happen if Biden gets in there?
Well,
I mean,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, here's the issue I see with doing a clean sweep. They think they're right too, regardless of if they're not. I don't think they're right, but they think they're right. So how do you deal with 70-something million people? And those are just voters, right? How do you deal with 70-something million people who believe now their rights have been trampled on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
I think no matter how you cut it, we're in for some real issues.
Oh, definitely.
Very interesting times are ahead of us. You know?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
They believe, just like we believe we're right, and what some people are prepared to do. Like everyone has something that they're prepared to do, which some of it could be absolutely nothing. Like I'm prepared to do absolutely nothing. Some people say. Some people say, well, I'm willing to protest. Some people say, well, I'm willing to take up arms and fight against it. Right? Everyone has what they're prepared to do. They're the same on the left too. Even if it was passive, trying to deal with 70 million plus people who are passively resisting or don't even accept. Let's say Trump wins and he overturns and he gets it, right? I wouldn't have an issue with that at all. I'd be like, cool. That's kind of what I wanted to begin with. But then how do you deal with half the country that doesn't accept what he says?
And that's the exact reason why the military has been mobilized. We're not the ones that they have to worry about. We
wouldn't be able to enforce it. The military worldwide, we number less than 2 million. We're outnumbered, 150 times to 1. There's no way the military can enforce that.
But you also have you're not. It won't be just the military on its own. You have military, you have law enforcement, and then you have community organizations. You have militia groups. I mean, a lot of people discount militias. There's a lot of militias. And they're well trained, well prepared, and they're not out here to overthrow stuff. But it's just in case something goes down to where there's a breakdown in society, you can police your own until things get to a point where society comes back. But you can't. But initially, you're gonna have total chaos. It's gonna be chaotic because people don't prepare. People are not prepared.
That's a good point made about bringing up the militia. I didn't even, the light bulb just went off.
But keep in mind too that a large portion of the military won't get involved in this. They have prior commitments and other objectives. Most of our military that would be used would probably be at the national guard level. Your active and federal troops would probably still be doing their primary mission, which is securing America's assets, abroad, is what their primary mission focus is abroad, whereas the National Guard is more domestic.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. Good points, fellas. Good points.
But that also splits the numbers too, because we wouldn't be working with the full almost 2 million troops that we have. That cuts it down to several 100,000. Like our military capability and what we're willing to throw into this, I think the military is at a severe disadvantage.
Okay. Appreciate it. So let's move forward a little bit. Another thing that kind of puzzled me in this bizarro world we're living in, the Banana Republic. What do you guys think about how the House of Representatives tried bamboozling everybody with this second impeachment of President Trump for insurrection? And the reason I have questions about this, which is puzzling to me, it's not puzzling, it's just easy to read between the lines, is impeachment for insurrection. And like earlier in the show, we discussed it. But people like Madonna blow up the White House. Robert De Niro want to punch you in the face. I mean, we've just seen so many celebrities just promoting violence for the last 5 years. We see mainstream media attack, falsely accuse Trump and his family of doing criminal activities over and over and over, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We've seen congresswomen, congressmen, like on both sides of the parties. There were some RINOs, we call them, Republican in name only. Trump was, brutally attacked round the clock. And so I'm just looking at it, the first, what do they say? He's the first president to be impeached twice and this and that. And if you really look at the first 220 years of this history, we only had 2 impeachments, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. So in 220 plus years, we only had 2 impeachments. Now all of a sudden, and it's just funny because it seems like the Democrats, every time they get wiped to the floor, they change the rules in the middle of the game. Historically they've done that. And this second impeachment is just, to me, it's buffoonery. They're trying to bamboozle us. Like I said, everybody got away with just totally slandering the president, slandering everything, and it co-conspired in my eyes. So what do you guys think about this second impeachment? You think the military ops is part of this impeachment to root out the deep state? You think that's part of it? Or what do you think about the impeachment in general, the charges of insurrection?
Well,
I think the DNC is scared of Trump. I think that what they did to win, they won't be able to do again. Like, they already showed their hand. And I think he's a pretty smart guy. He's going to know how to address it next time, if next time came around. So
okay.
I think it was a one-shot deal with them. That's why they tried to impeach him again, to prevent him from running again. They've also started running smear campaigns against other Republicans, saying that they're coming into the Capitol building armed. They did the representative of Colorado, saying that she was coming in armed, and they're trying to get her banned from coming in the facility. And it seems like their new method or their new tactic is to anyone that they really disagree with, that's going to give them a decent amount of opposition, they're trying to remove them from the field altogether.
They're trying to they're doxing them, basically, right?
They're doxing them.
Yeah.
They're smearing them. They're framing them. They're making fear their driving force. Like, she's pro Second Amendment. She says, I'm going to carry to defend myself. It's like, oh, well, we can't have her in a building. We're scared because she's here. Like, she's been there the whole time with you guys. But now all of a sudden you guys are scared. So now they want to prevent her from doing her job. And so what will happen is they'll probably put someone else in there who is probably less assertive and more pliable to their demands. And they'll call it working together. Like, we want someone who's going to work with us. But it's not working with them. They just want you to concede.
Obey, comply to what they want. Don't think for yourself. Don't think for yourself.
Right. I
So
think it's about vindictiveness. When Trump won and he thumbed their nose at them, they were very nasty. Like, most of his policies, most of his plans weren't new. They weren't unique. They were reworked situations that other presidents had. And that were pretty favorable, and a lot of them were pretty successful in some regards. But it was met with such vitriol that and it was disproportionate. Like, why? And they said it was a racist. Well, Obama did some of the same things, but he was never called racist. Why? But when you compare it line by line, and what I'll say about this is that most people don't even know why they hate Trump. They only hate him because the media says they're supposed to hate Trump.
exactly.
That you're racist.
True.
So if
Absolutely.
you like Trump, you're racist. I don't want to be called racist, so I gotta hate Trump, right? But when I say, why do you hate Trump? Well, he's racist. If I could prove to you that he's not racist, would you still hate him? Well, he let COVID here. He did not. He was actually one of the leading fighters of COVID, when everyone else in the DNC was calling it Trump's scam and a pull and a grab for power. You had Pelosi and Schiff down in Chinatown in San Francisco talking about Trump and his xenophobia is banning Chinese people, and we're here down in Chinatown, come drink the water with us, it's fine, with no mask in the middle of a pandemic. Then only to turn around a few weeks later to say, well, why didn't you move fast enough? What were you doing? You didn't take it seriously. when they were in Chinatown saying it was all made up. And he was not made up, but they said that he was exaggerating the condition so he can get more power. So, like, why doesn't anyone bring that up? The media never publishes that. They don't push it.
You know what I say? I say at this point, it's too late to try to red pill anybody.
No,
I don't care what. It doesn't matter. Like I tell my brother, listen, you're not gonna change my mind. I'm not gonna change your mind. So basically, at this point, we just see what happens, and which neither one of us have any control over. So we just see what happens, and that's all we could do. You know, we could talk about it, we could debate about it, but it doesn't matter because at this point, I'm not changing anybody's mind, and nobody's changing mine. You could tell me that I'm going to impeach him, like they say, "Oh, we impeached him." Well, impeachment doesn't mean anything unless you get convicted. It doesn't sound nice, but you didn't get convicted, so it means nothing. You know. So that's just how I see it. You could cry all day. Oh, we did him, we got him twice. So what? I know dudes I've arrested 15 times and they spent a week in jail. So what? You've been arrested 15 times, but you never got convicted of anything.
Right.
So that's just how I see it. It's just bogus. It's just enough is enough. It's like, let's get on with it. Let's see how this is all going to shake out at the end. You know, all I tell people is be prepared. Food, water, and defense. Because when the lights go out, nobody gonna come to help you.
Yeah, and the scary part is, if I don't know if you guys have done any shopping lately, but stuff is starting to get scarce again.
Yes,
my wife's out there shopping right now, and she's like,
why?
"There's a lot of stuff that's sold out." So people are actually taking some of this stuff seriously, but you have a lot of people that aren't, and a lot of people that can't.
And those are gonna be the zombies
that live in New York City that don't have the ability to store stuff, that don't have access to certain resources. They may not have cars to cart back large stocks of stores to save for a rainy day. You know, some of the people out in suburbia and the rural areas where they might have some property, some land, or, you know, a bigger house where they could stock up on supplies will weather the storm better.
Right.
But I think that ultimately, no matter which side loses, red or blue, Republican or Democrat, we all lose as Americans. I think we
at least for a little while.
I'm sorry?
Long term, if one side wins, long term, America's going to suffer for at least 100 years, if not longer.
I think we're screwed for the next 4 years regardless, because no matter who wins,
and it's
going to be 4 years of this whole administration was lying or that whole administration was lying. For the next 4 years.
And obviously, Joe Biden was part of the last administration, and that last administration got caught knees deep in corruption and spying and selling out this country, and, you know, so on and so on.
But if they win, you'll never hear anything about it.
It gets swept under the rug, and then that's not good. So basically, we're as a nation, we're divided like never before. We have two totally separate ideologies where we think we are Americans. I call it evil versus good. You know, I believe my side, one man, one opinion. My side is more of the good side. We're not perfect, but we're not insane, and we use, you know, logic and reasoning and you know, common sense. And so going forward, we'll know in a few short days how it's going to play out. And so I guess only thing I can say to people is just prepare yourself now. I don't know what anybody's finances are or anything like that, but like, get yourself 7 to 10 days supply, you know, worth of food. If you get extra food, you know, on top of your weekly supply, and lots of water, plenty of water, because you need water, and sit tight, because the future's not certain. And the only thing that's certain about the future is you can just form an opinion based on the past, because the past, you know, always repeats itself. So, you know, if you want to sound like a predict the future, just look back in the past and see how everything happened moving forward. So that's basically all I really got to say about that topic. I mean, if you guys want to add on your little thoughts on that, piggyback off of anything I just said.
Yeah, I believe you're right. People just need, at this point, we don't have control of what's going to happen. We did our part. no matter what side you're on, we voted. You know, we tried to convince and tried to educate all we could. If it landed right, then great. But for the most part, I think most people are so polar opposite when it comes to this thing. Doesn't matter what you say, their minds are made up. Like a lot of people just so brainwashed and just so like again, I voted for Obama twice, you know, and when things change and I'm looking at the writing on the wall, then I see that that's not the best way for us at this point. So you got to do something different. So, but you're right. We need to just prepare food, water, and let's see what happens. Only a couple days left. Time will tell.
Yeah, and like what's funny is I always advocate for a book called The Law by Frederick Bassett. I always tell everybody, download it or look it on YouTube and stuff like that. The Law by Frederick Bassett. It's a great book. You'll learn a lot from it. But one of his quotes was, and it pertains to what we've been talking about. One of his quotes was, "When law and morality contradict each other, the citizen has the cruel alternative of either losing the moral sense or losing his respect for the law." I'll repeat that. When the law, which is our legislators and the law enforcement enforcing the law and morality contradicts each other, the citizen has the cruel alternative of either losing his moral sense or losing respect of the law. And that's where we are right now. I believe, we're just right down the middle. You got half our population, that's starting to lose respect for the law. And the other one is just totally lost respect of morality. Everything goes. And that's basically the founding, that's really the big issue that's separating both sides of the party. You got people and it just doesn't work. So that's all I really got to say about that. If you guys want to add anything on that might come to the top of your head.
I got two things to add to that. One thing is I also think that this impeachment and the subsequent banning from just about every social media outlet, every major social media outlet, was a message. It was a message that if they can do this to a billionaire sitting president and cut off his revenue stream, they can do this to anybody. And they also were very vocal about going after people who legally supported him in his claims. Like, hey, the man has legitimate claims. Now, why I think that is so troubling is because half the country voted for him, right? Virtually half the country voted for Trump.
Yes.
Half voted for Biden. And I think it was more that they voted against Trump than for Biden. But regardless, right? Let's just say those votes were legitimate, all of them. I don't believe they were all legitimate, but let's just say they were, right? These corporations, these companies, and these politicians lied, cheated, and steal to push their agenda and their narrative, knowing that half the country didn't believe it. That's the scary part to me. It's not like it was generations past and decades past where everyone's like, well, maybe, we could sweep this under the rug and people wouldn't know. You have half the population that knows it and they still did it. That's alarming to me. The second thing is that they try to take Trump's words and all right-leaning politicians' words, and they try and say, well, we're going to hold them accountable for their speech, right, for what they say. But it's not the same when they do it. And what people tend to forget is the right is very careful about the stuff they say. And the reason why is because they are the law-making body. A lot of people say, well, they're not lawyers. You can't hold them to specifically what they say. And I say, you have to do exactly that. No, they may not be lawyers, but they are the people making the laws that the lawyers then have to interpret and the judges have to apply. So you have to hold them accountable for their speech. You have to hold them accountable for specifically what they say. And that said, I think Biden's a racist because of specifically what he says, and specifically the things that he does. So I think when they call Trump a racist without proof, I think they should be held liable, right? And then on the same sense, they don't apply those same standards to Biden. Why? And that's well, I just want to put that out there. Be prepared, and the message to anyone watching is just be prepared for yourself and your family. Get some food, get some cash, get some fuel if you need fuel. Something to weather the storm for a few days. Like Leonard said, and like you said before, at this point we're all along for the ride. And I personally wouldn't want to be across the table from any of my countrymen. I think we're an awesome country. I love my nation. I love my flag. I love my countrymen. I fight for them. I die for them. I think it's extremely troubling we're at these crossroads. That said, I hope we get through this chapter in our history, and it's one of those blurbs where I can look back and be like, yeah, that was all really dumb. I don't know.
Well, thank you. Very, very well said, Rick. Very well said. Leonard, you have any last minute thoughts that you might want to add on to tonight's show before we sign out?
Well, again, and I'll state it again, and we're along for the ride. We just have to just watch each other's backs and be careful, because although a lot of us are not bad people, people will do bad things. So everybody just pray, and let's hope we get through this all in one piece.
Very well said. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to try to wrap this up. We've been on it for a little over an hour now. Like I said, I appreciate you guys coming on the show, giving your input, your advice, and great conversations. Great talking to you guys face to face. So there's these Facebook arguments where one of us is always in Facebook jail and everything else. At least, people can actually hear our voice and hear our opinions instead of reading our opinions, and they can't just silence us. So that's a good thing. And like I said, I really appreciate you guys appearing on my show. And so I'm gonna sign you guys out. So I just want to say salute to both of you. Be safe.
Thank you for having me.
Be
nice
safe.
You, Leonard.
All right,
nice.
guys. All right, I'll talk. All right, thank you.
Have a good one.
Oh, there you go, folks. Patriot Nation TV. Little back and forth talking amongst American patriots. So I hope you enjoyed the little show we broadcast tonight. And if you're new to the show, you're just watching, viewership, hit subscribe, leave comments, and any suggestions for future shows. So in ending, like I say, God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.